Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, sometimes it only takes a shift in color palette to see something familiar from an entirely new perspective. And if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean that you're in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals. We pick their brain about current products, state of the industry, and how they got started in a light and in a conversational fashion for this audio-only experience. And you know, that's it. And we publish it. And you're listening, so please keep listening. So subscribe. Hit us that subscribe button. Use the 5-star rating in your podcast provider of choice. We're available pretty much everywhere. Places like Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, and plus we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, Letterboxd, the TikTok, the Blue Sky, the Threads, and probably several other places that I'm losing track of, but in the seeds for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large, because guess what? If we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it all that much more when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So please do us that ultimate kindness, come by and pay us a visit. Well, it's been a marathon posting day, but I think we've saved the best one for last, at least for now anyway. We're diving into, well, it's a fun one. It's probably our favorite show so far in this new season. We lapped it up the second it dropped on Prime Video. It's Spider-Noir, with the one and only Nicolas Cage filling in a variation on the role and giving us Spider-Man, but in 50s, in sort of film noir style. It is such a fun blend, and it's really a fantastic show. And it's got such a distinct look to it as well, because not only is it shot for glorious black and white, but also it is shot to look amazing in very spectacular color. And that's not as easy as it sounds. It's not as flip of a switch, which is why I was so happy that we had the pleasure to sit down with cinematographers Darran Tiernan and Peter Deming, who worked on the show, to ask about just that and what it takes to shoot something that will look good both ways, and sort of the back and forth of it all, and was there extra work, and just the getting down to the nitty gritty of how you make a show like this, which especially during this Emmy Award consideration season, I always like doing, because again it takes a village to make these shows and movies that come to our screens, and at least from my perspective, I appreciate every single person who puts in the work behind the scenes, and it's important to highlight that stuff. But if you don't have Prime Video, what are you doing? Go sign up for that now and watch Spider-Noir. It's a lot of fun. But first, enjoy our conversation with DOPs, cinematographers, Darran and Peter, because it's an informative one, and it's a darn good one too. But enjoy that, enjoy them, enjoy the show, and we'll talk to you again soon. All right, Darran, Peter. Obviously, first off, thank you so much for the time today, and I mean, congratulations on Spider Noir. The world cannot get enough. It's a fantastic show.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, I mean, I guess the first question is like, what's the process of being brought on to a show like this? I mean, I'll ask you, Darran, because I mean, I know you've got a little bit of history with the genre, because I mean, there's some similarities between like this and say Perry Mason. So, I mean,
hmm
I'm kind of curious, like, what was sort of the pitch to you, sort of in the early days?
Well, in the early days, it was a black and white show, and later on, the request came in for a color one. But let's talk about the black and white first. So, Aaron is our showrunner. He was very, he's got a huge knowledge of film noir, and it really started all with him, and then the story he was telling, which is a detective superhero story. And he really wanted us to lean into heavily into noir history, and discover Like I thought I knew a lot about noir until he gave me a list of films to watch, and I was like, "Oh, I've never seen this, and I've never seen that." And I found some favorites which have kind of been forgotten about, but like it was really like an education first, you know. And yeah, he was very much about like go as far as you can, and then if we break it, then we can just take a step back, you know. So
Love it, love it. I guess
yeah.
that leads into the question of the elephant in the room. And I mean, Peter, I'll ask you, like, is this a question of, like, do you shoot this natively in black and white and then it goes to colorization, or do you shoot it in color and then it gets black and white? Because I can imagine the job's going to be different for you guys either way, depending on this is initially being approached.
Yeah, I mean it would have been interesting to shoot it monochrome and then colorize it. I think that I'm not sure the budget would have enjoyed that because obviously it's a little more than a flip of a switch the way we did it, but it's still there's a lot of care taken to both looks. Um, I think I agree with Darren. I mean, it's a black and white show, and I think that's where our hearts lie. Um, but the color was, you know, I think Darren would go, well, he went through it. I didn't. To create a LUT that's acceptable for the color, based upon what Warren, the designer, was doing with the sets to make the tonal black and white work was a real challenge. And I think that hats off to them for creating that. But it's monitoring it on a daily basis on set was also, something new for both of us, I'm sure. You know,
Yes.
it's interesting because you're watching it in color, but obviously you're on set and the world isn't. I mean, you're watching it in black and white, but you're on set and the world is color. So you're using any light you put up has a color. So you have to be cognizant of that all day long. And so you're lighting it in color, but you're reacting to the black and white and checking the color. At least that's the way I approached it. And if there were things from a color sense that weren't working in black and white, you would change them. I didn't really encounter that too much from a lighting aspect. It was more in the design, which was already sort of built in for us.
Yeah.
Love that, love that. And I mean, Darren, I mean, does that kind of speak to, I guess, the challenges of having a show that is both color and black and white? Because I mean, again, it's one of those things where I can imagine on a day-to-day basis, you're going to be like, well, that's going to look great in color, but it's going to look crap in black and white. Or that shadow's not going to play right in black and white, but it's going to look great in color. Like, how do you sort of find the middle ground?
Yeah, but I think it was for us. It was all in the planning because we had our color lookup table and then we had our black and white lookup table. All the monitors on the set were black and white because that was the spirit of it.
Right, right.
And really, you could only watch the color at either Peter or and I's monitors by request, which was usually only Aaron would like, to check it. Or if our production designer, Warren, or our costume designer, Tracy, was there, they would come by and say, can you put it into color and show me? So they all had cameras that had the same color science that our on-set cameras had and lighting setup. So they could flick between the black and white and the color in their departments, and place whatever they wanted in front of the camera to check, does this go with this? And I know when we were busy shooting on set, I know Warren and Tracy and other departments would often be together looking at things together. So when we actually were on set, everything kind of flowed naturally. And every now and again, you'd hit a bump in the road, but it was usually quickly solved. Usually with lighting, in my case, it was like, well, if you turn that off, that looks better now in both black and white and color. So it was a little balancing act, but I don't know about you, Peter, but after about a week of it, I got very used to it, and it just became the norm for me, and it was always kind of fun, to discover because we're always exploring possibilities as we went along and reacting to what was in the script.
Yeah, and also I would say by the time I, went to camera, this process had been going on for quite a while, and Kevin, the DIT, was really, for me, very helpful in monitoring the color. because I'd come over and look at the black and white in this, and he would sometimes just switch it and make me look at it. And I go, oh, okay, yeah. And oftentimes he would be checking it, because he knew sort of where things were landing. And if he thought there was something I'd look at, he'd just say, you should look at the color. And not saying there's anything wrong, but you should look at the color. And so I would. And I think that was, he was really sort of, for me, the policeman of that. Not that I wasn't doing it, but you know, he was the teacher saying, you
Yeah.
should look at the color.
Kevin, yeah, he was definitely the guardian or the
Yes,
gatekeeper
yeah.
for the two worlds. And Kevin Britton, our DIT, deserves a big shout out. And I do have to say, when my first time going in to see the final version, the final cut edit of episode one before doing the black and white with Pankaj, who's our colorist, um, I sat down and I watched it. And afterwards I said to Pankaj, "Oh, so you did a best light, like you leveled everything out?" And he said, "No, that's straight out of the camera."
Yeah,
And that's a great testament to Kevin
that's Kevin.
because
Yeah.
he kept everything in line all the time. So I watched the cut that we hadn't even touched yet. We hadn't done anything to. And I was just blown away. So thank you, Kevin, when you
Yeah.
listen to this.
And I had the exact same experience looking at the cuts of 5 and 6. And Pankaj, I said, I don't see, nice work. And he's like, it wasn't me. This is the way it came in. And, it was that was sort of miraculous.
No, I mean, I'm curious because Peter obviously came in to shoot episodes 5 and 6, and I mean, for you, does it take pressure off to know sort of Darran and the team and everyone else has sort of established this baseline even before you go to camera, or does it sort of add, I mean, I guess maybe restrictions on you in terms of how you'd like to do things?
I don't think it was restrictive because I think there was a freedom in the show to really do whatever you want. Once I saw the dailies and the stills of the black and white LUT they were working with, it was the opposite. I was energized. I was sort of really excited, you know, to reach the level that they had been achieving for months. And and that was fun. And as Darren and I talked about before, the 2 episodes I did had a lot of sort of different material that was not, some of it was flashback origin, some of it was into the sort of, medical experimental world sets that really were you know, only appeared in 5 and 6. And then it sort of went back to the world that Darren had been living in until I got there. I mean, I had some of that, of course, but there was a certain freedom in the narrative origin in 5 and 6 that was great as well.
Love it, love it. And I mean, I'll ask you both this, but Darren, let's start with you because obviously the general misconception with the public is, as you guys were alluding to before, it was like, oh, you can just flip a switch from black and white to color. It's like, no, it's a lot harder than that. Can you guys talk a little bit about sort of, I guess, maybe the smaller things that you really need to pay attention to when you're trying to craft something that's going to work both black and white and sort of the vibrant color that we have in this show?
Yeah, I like, one of the differences I think with this show and a lot of other contemporary shows is that people don't tend to light with hard light anymore. They use kind of very, soft and direct, and it might be very powerful, but it can be very soft. And the harder light is usually left for background elements rather than foreground elements. Um, so for me, things were like, it was the level of hardness. It was used to be about the level of softness, but then it was the levels of hardness. It's like, well, how hard do I go with this light on Nick in this particular scene with this particular performance? And do you go really hard, or you just step back a bit? And it was making those decisions on the fly a lot because it's a reaction to the performance. But it might work. Oh, I've gone really hard. It looks beautiful in black and white, but then you flick to the color and you've just gone a little bit too far. So it's just like you just have to massage it back in the black and white so it matches
Right.
with the color. But quite often it fell into place because we had been given the time and used our energies to actually discover what the show should be before we started shooting. I was very lucky because we shot for 2 days, about a month and a half before principal photography. We shot a couple of scenes, and that really allowed everybody to super analyze the work that we had done, learn from it, and adapt to it. So I would like to say to everybody that it was a very mindful and thoughtful process to get us there, you know. And I think we were always learning, even when we were shooting, there was certain things we would learn, and Warren, the production designer, would come to me and says, I'm not sure whether it's going to be this blue or this blue. What do you think? And we would look at it in black and white, we'd look at it in color and look at what scene it was in, and then decisions would be made. So it was continuously collaborative in that kind of point of view. And I was when I went back into prep, and I used to love, every now and again I could pop down to Peter's set and see what he was doing, and knowing that, yeah, as Peter was saying before, his narrative was slightly different. So it was re-energizing to me, because then it's like, oh, this is going to be great, and 7 and 8 following this, or it's going to be super. It's like I got a good feeling about it.
Yeah, I think, as as you said, David, there's so much more to it than flipping a switch. And I was sort of amazed by what Warren and Tracy did in the color to black and white world, because I came in and I'm like, wow, it's a weird blue for a room, and that's a weird red for a room. But then when you saw it in black and white, it looks so fantastic, but yet they're mindful of the color aspect as well, which I'm not sure I could have done that job. It's sort of mind bending, they probably have swatch books everywhere around their offices of the different versions, and the few projects I've been involved with that had black and white sections, we did, the poor man's version of what Darran did is we took costumes and chip charts and recorded them on both levels so that everyone knew where things were going to go, and they're awfully often wildly different than what you would imagine. Dark colors go extremely light, or vice versa. So that was a real challenge. And then you factor in the LUT that Darran and Pankaj came up with, and they had to keep a lot of people happy, not just the two of them. So that factored in as well. But it was the only thing that I found, and it went away right away, is that sometimes skin tones would change. It's like, depending on what color you're lighting with, sometimes the black and white would look a little ruddy. And so, maybe you change the color, maybe you change the intensity to make that smooth out. But, those things sort of fell by the wayside pretty quickly. You got used to just anticipating that.
For sure, for sure. Now, I mean, did you guys both come onto this shoot together? Because I mean, by the sounds of it, you were shooting a lot of stuff concurrently, and I mean, I've got to imagine that just sort of being able to have the resource of one another to sort of bounce things off of as you're both going through the process is was would have been a benefit that would be hard to explain.
Yeah, sadly, no. We weren't on it together. And I would have loved to have Peter on earlier with me. That would have been fantastic to talk to him at length about all of this. And I was actually probably just finishing 2 or starting episode 3 when Peter came on. And it was brilliant to have him there. Our conversations were compressed, but we did manage to speak.
Right. Okay.
And Peter managed to hang out with me sometimes on set, and to soak in what we were trying to do. But he had a lot of work on his hands as well in his prep and all the things he had to do. Because in Peter, not to speak for you or anything, Peter, but you did have a lot of sequences of and locations and places that were only in 5 and 6. So the World War One scenes and the medical hospital scenes and the laboratory scenes. And so I was delighted for you because you had stuff there that was actually outside of what I was
Mhm.
doing, so it was
Mhm.
really interesting. And just to be clear, is like when Peter was shooting, I was in prep, and when I was shooting, Peter was in prep. So
Right.
it's always harder to hang out. But it would have been fantastic if he was there with me in the beginning. Maybe next time, Peter.
Maybe next time.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, Peter, I'm curious because, and I mean, Darren and I were talking about a little of this before we started. This show really is a love letter to the genre of film noir, and I mean, I think that's very true in your episodes as well. As sort of a lot of the stuff that I got to see was really sort of evocative of so many different films across the genre. Not only sort of in the private dick's office, but when you're going outside and exploring these worlds. I'm kind of curious how much of this show got to happen in camera. Because I mean, there will be a bit of a misconception that'll be like, oh, well, that was in post or that was a green screen or that kind of thing. Like, how much on this show did you manage to capture sort of as in camera as you could?
I, you know, I think we were both conscious of doing as much organically as possible because that was the way those films were made. I mean, obviously in Darren's episode, you're not going to throw Nick Cage off a building. So that's a different story. But even I love split diopters, and to be given a chance to like run with that was really fun. And it was always every day. It was sort of like because compositionally it has to be favorable to that particular piece of glass to make it work. And then whenever I would see one, I would say, "Well, we could try it here. We could try it there." And we literally dusted off some old gadgets from God knows how many years ago. Spinning things and things that give you multiple images or peephole attachments, and stuff that hasn't been used probably since the 60s. And, to the point where it'd say, go in the back room and look because I don't know what we have. It's like, well, go look, damn it, because we want it. Get it over here. We'll test it. And that was great. That was a blast.
Yeah.
Love that, love that. I mean, to sort of have that ability to, I mean, I mean, to actually play with lenses and just sort of play with the aesthetic. I can imagine you guys managed to sort of sneak in a lot of visual Easter eggs that even sort of a film nerd like me would have a hard time finding. But I mean,
Yes, on a daily basis, I'm
yeah,
sure we
I
did.
mean, I'm just curious though. I mean, just to start putting a bow on this, how much do you guys feel like, and especially on a show like this, because when I watched it all, I managed to marathon the whole thing, and to me, it just felt like a longer movie rather than something that was more episodic. Like when you're going into a project like this, and Darren, we'll start with you. Like, do you think of this as sort of in one piece, or do you think of it as sort of blocks, like one, two, three, four, five, six kind of thing?
No, definitely in this case, I thought it was one piece. Like it's, I think most episodes are about 45 minutes long,
Yeah, about that.
so it's like, a 7 hour long movie.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. Um, and it felt like that continuously because the same kind of energy and drive was there all the time. Driven by, Aaron and driven by the scripts and driven by our actors and it was, it had its own momentum. So, it did feel like we were trying to make a complete piece together.
Yeah, I would agree. It's definitely one piece. And it's, I think to me, in the series I've been involved with, the episodes really are a shorthand to me of how far you can go stylistically because typically as the story progresses whatever you're doing to push the narrative visually you say, oh, we're in seven. Oh, I can really have some fun with this now. And it's sort of a little bit of that, and it's also yeah, I mean, I guess I approach everything as one thing and not separate episodes. I think that's just so that people know where they are, and if they're down the rabbit hole, they sort of say, well, I'll finish this tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
well, gentlemen, thank you for your contributions on this rabbit hole because, I mean, honestly, I truly believe this is one of the more visually engaging pieces of television I think we've seen in the last 25 years. It's such a fantastic piece of work. I had so much fun. I gobbled it up. I can't wait to watch it again. But I mean, guys, just congrats on your work, and just
Thanks.
thank you for the insight on making Spider-Noir and just making this unique experience for all of us.
Yeah, and I
So,
just to say before we go, and I know Darren agrees with me, watching Nick on a daily basis was really, really a treat.
Oh,
You know,
I
sort
don't
of
doubt
like
that for a second. My
forget about the
God, yeah.
visuals, just watching that happen was really great.
oh, absolutely. Yeah. He was fantastic. He was there. He was in the 1940s. like and we all danced with him. He's definitely one of the greatest American actors. You know, he's fantastic. It
And
was
then Nick getting to
brilliant
hide those
fun.
powers with this magic visually going on. It's a beautiful combination. Guys, again, thank you for the work and thank you for the time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Good luck to you.
Yeah, likewise,
Thank
you
you.
too. See you guys
All the
soon.
best.
Bye.
See you. Bye
All
bye.
right.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.